Hey everyone, Rebecca here, and today we're going to do a ultimate beginner friendly flow. So obviously if you're not a beginner, you can still take this class, but there's going to be a lot more instruction and a lot more options for variations. Not a whole lot of prop heavy stuff because usually beginners don't have that kind of stuff. And I have a Spotify playlist that I'm going to play in my ear so I can try to keep track of where you guys are at. So if you want to use that, go for it. If not, you can not use it. You don't need to use it. But let's go ahead and get started. So if you have a yoga mat, great. Roll it on out. If you don't, you can use like a beach towel. You can use a blanket, or you can just be on the hard floor or on the carpet. Hard floor is a little bit better than carpet, but do whatever you can. So if you do have yoga blocks, you can have them up towards the front of your mat in case you want to use them, but it's definitely not necessary. And Fiona is being really loud, so I'm sorry. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. So you can press play on your playlist. We're going to start all the way reclined, which is my favorite way to start class, to end class, to do just about everything, is just laying flat on our backs. So we're going to start there. So I'm going to start my playlist. And ideally you don't want it on shuffle. And then go ahead and lie down. Doesn't matter which way you're facing. If you want something under the knees to kind of prop the knees up a little bit, if the low back is tight, you can do that, or you can just have the feet flat on the ground and then the knees touching together in constructive rest. Palms face up to receive if you're feeling open. Palms down if you want to feel a little bit more grounded, a little more stable and secure. And just take a few really deep breaths in and sigh it out of the mouth. Make them really loud. One more breath in and sigh. You can do that a few more times if you'd like. Release any tension that you've developed today. Let the space between the eyebrows on the forehead release. Let the muscles of the face relax. Just breathing regularly now. And really tuning into that breath. Many yoga classes, we let the breath move us, let it guide us. It can give you a lot of cues on where you're at today, whether your breath is really shallow and short and uneven, or if it's longer, deeper. And they can also help you during your practice, determining when you might want to take a little rest. As you breathe in, notice that the low belly starts to rise up. As you breathe out, the belly falls. Inhale, belly rises. Exhale, belly falls. Take a little scan through the body from the very top of the head all the way down to the tips of the toes. Slowly, just to acknowledge any areas that might feel tense, or maybe feels like it wants a little bit of a stretch, or maybe areas that feel really good and loose. When you're ready, you're gonna hug the right knee in towards the chest. Grab whatever you have access to, whether that's the outer thighs, the back of the knee, the front of the knee. You can use a strap, belt, dish towel to extend the arms a little bit if the reach is a little bit tough as is. Really lengthen through the right side of the body, so between the rib cage and the hip on that right side, let it be a little bit longer, kind of pushing that right butt cheek down towards the left heel. Plant the left foot, so bending that left knee, plant the left foot flat. Cross your right ankle over your left thigh for a reclined pigeon pose. If you want less sensation, you can walk that left foot, the standing planted foot, away from you a little bit. If you want a little bit more, you can bring that foot closer in towards the hip, or you can even hug that leg in. Grabbing onto the back of the knee, the front of the knee. You want to feel a nice stretch through the right outer hip. You might feel it in the right inner thigh as well. You might feel it in the low back. As long as it's not painful, as long as it's just a stretch, then you're doing it right. Keep your awareness on the breath. Try not to let the mind wander in these moments of stillness. And on your exhale, plant that left foot down, plant the right foot down, extend the right leg long, and hug the left knee in towards the chest. Same thing, other side. Same options here as the other side. This side might feel different, but you know the same options. You can grab onto whatever you have access to. You can use a belt or a dish towel if the knee is still a little bit far away from you. Lengthening through the left side body, and by that I mean the rib cage, in between the rib cage and the hip on that left side. Just gently warming up the hips here, getting them a little bit stretched out. Bend that right knee, plant the right foot down, cross the left ankle over the right thigh for reclined pigeon. You can stay right where you're at with that right foot planted down, or you can step that right foot away a little bit for less sensation, or closer to you for more sensation. Again, same thing as the other side, but this hip might feel a lot different. Most of us are pretty asymmetrical, so really tune in to what the hips are telling you here, and you just want a nice stretch. I happen to be very bendy this direction, so I'm able to do quite a bit early on, but not everyone is. Hi, Fiona. What's up, baby? Keep the low back nice and long. Don't let it arch up off of your mat or off of the floor. Keep the left foot engaged as if you're standing on the ground with that left foot. That helps protect your knee joint whenever we're doing these hip stretches. It's good to do that, especially if the knees are a little sore or a little bit sensitive. One more breath in here. Exhale, plant that right foot down, plant the left foot down, roll over to one side, and push yourself up. We're going to make our way to tabletop on your hands and your knees. for a few rounds of cat and cow. So you want wrists under shoulders, knees under hips. If the knees are a little sensitive, you can put, you can double up your mat if you've got a mat, or your towel. You can put a blanket under the knees to kind of give yourself a little bit of padding. If the wrists are a little sore, you can play with where the fingers are pointed, or you can, if you have blocks, you can use blocks so that your fingers aren't extending so much, like so. So you can kind of play around with how to make it more comfortable for you. And this might change day to day, and that's totally normal. So once you've found your tabletop position, on your inhale, you're gonna lower the belly down, lower the chest down, lift the head and the tailbone up. So you're making kind of a C shape with the spine, opening the chest up towards the front of your mat, lifting the tailbone up towards the sky, lifting the crown of the head towards the sky. You don't want to scrunch your neck like you're trying to crane your neck up. You want to keep the back of the neck decently long here. Feel the expansion in the rib cage. Feel a little stretch in the low back. Good. On your exhale, we're going the other way. Arch the back up, round the low back, round the upper back. Bring the head down. Fiona's really interested in my cat-cow. Tucking the tailbone under. Really trying to arch the back as far as you can up towards the sky. Use the hands to push the floor away from you. Length through the back of the neck. Keep breathing. Next breath out, try to arch a little bit higher. And inhale back to cow, lowering the belly down, lifting the heart, lifting the head, lifting the tailbone. Exhale, cat, arching up. Moving back and forth with your breath, inhaling down to cow. Exhaling up to cat. You can play around, add any extra movements that you might like. You can bring it around town, as I call it. Going in little circles with the spine, adding a little bit of side bending. Good. Come on back to neutral table. If you want to practice in socks, you can. Typically, it's a little easier and less slippery to practice without socks. I often start my classes with socks on, and then I will take them off once we get into the more standing-based postures. So if you want to do that, go for it. And then from your tabletop, you're going to turn the toes under, hips go up and back, downward facing dog. So you're making a nice long spine. I am bending the knees a lot here intentionally because I want you to do that as well so that the spine is nice and straight. I don't want you rounding through the upper back or the lower back. You might be feeling a nice stretch through the back of the heels, the Achilles, the calves. If you want, you can start to work one leg a little closer to straight and then switch sides. Walking your dog, it's often called. Kind of bending one knee at a time. If this is feeling a little much on the shoulders, you can return back down to tabletop position. If this is a little much for you, that's totally fine. And then try to find a little stillness in the legs, whether that's knees bent or knees a little bit straighter. And then I want you to focus on the shoulders. So with the wrists, you don't want a whole lot of weight dumping on the heels of your wrist. You want to be a little more active through the hands and through the palms. So I'm pushing down at the base of my index finger and my thumb on both hands. And then you're kind of pushing up and back, so the heart is pushing towards the thighs. And then you want to wrap the shoulder blades around the rib cage, so you're not scrunching up through your neck with the shoulders. You want to be nice and open through the upper shoulders. Good, come on back down to tabletop position. You can sit up, shake out the wrists. If you're new to yoga, downward dog and plank and all that stuff can be a little much on the wrists at first, so you can do some circles, or just shake it out, or cat on a piano. They will get stronger, it will get easier, I promise. Okay, if and when you're ready, come on back to tabletop, back up to down dog. We won't stay here super long. On your inhale, look up towards the hands. Exhale, walk your feet forward. It can take however many steps you need to get all the way forward for a forward fold at the front of your mat. Again here, bending the knees a lot so that your belly, chest can rest on your thighs. The feet can be whatever width feels comfortable. So they can be together, they can be wide. Here's where, if you're really tight in the back of the body, you can have a block or something to prop you up, or even a chair. As you feel like you get a little bit looser and you want a little more sensation, you can start to work the knees a little closer to straight. If you want the knees bent, you'll get more stretch in the low back. Knees straight, you'll get more stretch in the backs of the legs and the hamstrings and the backs of the thighs and the calves. Good. Inhale to halfway lift up. So hands on the shins, thighs, knees somewhere. So you can have a nice long flat back. Long back of the neck. Use the hands wherever they're at to push yourself away so the shoulders are nice and broad. And your exhale will come back, forward fold. One more inhale, halfway lift. Long spine, push away. Exhale, plant the hands. Step your right foot back. So you're on the ball of the back foot. The left knee is bent. Doesn't matter how bent it is. If you have difficulty with balance, you can walk your left foot out to the left a little bit, or have the right foot out to the right a little bit, so you're not on a tightrope. You can stay here if this is a good stretch for you, a good sensation, or if you want a little bit more of a balance challenge, you can come up with the chest, up with the torso. Hands can be in prayer on the hips or up to the sky. All the options are great. Nice deep stretch through the front of the right hip on this one. And obviously we're working that left leg as well. Trying to bring that right hip forward, left hip back, so the hips are squared straight towards the front of your mat. And last thing, try not to arch through that lower back. So you don't want to be really arched. If you need to bend that back leg a little bit so you can be more upright in the torso, that is completely fine. I would rather you do that than hyperextend through the low back. Good, straighten the front knee. You're going to spin the back heel down. So those right toes are facing about 45 degrees. And now we're going to open our hips towards the side of your mat, towards the wall for me. They don't need to be completely off to the side. You can be still a little bit forward, but I don't want you totally square towards the front. And then we're going to bend that left knee again. Hands on the hips. Hands can be in prayer, or now they're towards the front and back of the mat. This is the traditional arm option for this is warrior two. So we went from crescent lunge to now warrior two. Play with where the weight is distributed within the feet. Is the weight on the outer edge of the back foot or the inner edge? You can play around with what feels best for that. Front foot, weight can be a little more towards the heel, a little more towards the ball of the foot. It changes the sensation. Good, straighten that front knee. You're gonna bring both hands down to the mat, framing that left foot. And then we're gonna bring that right foot forward, so you're in forward fold at the front of the mat. Really let the neck go, let the head go. Bending the knees as much as you want. Reconnect with the breath if you've lost it. You'll feel a little uneven in the legs right now. I promise we'll do the other side. On your next inhale, lift halfway up. Hands on shins, long spine, flat back. Lengthen the back of the neck. Exhale, fold forward. One more inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Plant the hands, step that left foot back this time, crescent lunge. Same options here, you can space the feet out a little bit wider. You can stay here with the hands, or if you want a little bit more, come on up with the chest. Hands can be same options as before. Hips, prayer. You could even rest the hands on the thigh without falling over, like I just did. Again, too, really look at where your torso is. So you want the shoulders over the hips if you're all the way upright. And if you feel like you have to really arch through the low back to do that, then bend that back knee. You're still getting a really big stretch through the front of the hip on that left side. Keep with the breath. Noticing the sensations that you're probably starting to feel through that right thigh. Feel some energy through that back heel, out that back heel. So that the weight feels a little more evenly distributed. You don't feel like all of your weight is on that front leg. Good, straighten the front knee. Spin that back heel down. Toes pointing a little bit forward. And now automatically my hips are a little more square. So I'm not all the way towards the side of my mat. I'm a little bit angled forward at about 45. You can play with it. Some people, their hips really like to be fully open. Mine don't. So play around with it. There's no right or wrong answer. And then once you feel like you got your feet and hips in a good spot, bend that front knee, the right knee. Same options here for the hands. Typically you're looking out towards the right. If that's too much on the neck, you can look straight forward. Just be intentional about where you're gazing. Make it be purposeful. Really extending out through the arms if they're long. Right arm towards the front of the mat, left arm towards the back of the mat, like someone's gently pulling the arms a little further apart. Look down at your right foot. You want to be able to see at least your big toe on that right side. You don't want the knee diving too far inwards, but you don't want to be able to see all your toes because then your knee is too far out. Pull the rib cage towards the belly button, hips a little bit up so that you're not letting the core do no work. You want to have a little bit of core engagement here, so you're not hyperextending through that low back. I say that cue a lot because I do that a lot. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, bring both hands down, frame that right foot. You can come back up on that left heel and step the left foot all the way forward, forward fold. Good. Take one last breath here. And we're going to bend the knees all the way down until your butt's sitting on the ground. You can scooch back a little bit. I'm going to turn to face you guys a little bit more. A couple more stretches and then we're done. So you're going to bring your right leg out long, not straight in front of you, out to the side a smidge. And then if you can, you're going to bring that left foot in towards your hips. So that might be too much. If that's too much on the knee or whatever, you can keep that left leg long. But this kind of changes the stretch a little bit if you can bring it in. It doesn't need to be all the way in either. Whatever feels good, per usual. Wherever you're at, you're going to bring both hands to frame that right leg. We're setting up for Janu Sirsasana, which is just like a single leg forward fold, basically. So if you're feeling a big stretch here and your back is able to be straight here, stay here. If you're still kind of slouched through the spine because the backs of the legs are tight, you can grab a blanket or 2 or 3 or 10 to be under your hips so that your spine can be straight and long. We want the spine to stay long, at least to start for this. If you're wanting a little bit more, you can start to walk the hands forward. Again, you want to make sure that heart is facing straight towards the right thigh, right knee, whatever, wherever you're at. Nice and long through the spine. And then if you want, you can round through the spine, bringing the head down. You always kind of want to find your edge with the spine straight. The edge meaning where the back of the leg is getting a nice stretch. And then you can kind of, sink into it a little bit more, and you don't have to be so diligent about keeping the spine straight. Good, walk the hands back up if they were forward at all. And then we're going to extend the left leg, same thing, off to the side a little bit. If you brought the left foot in, try to bring the right foot in. Again, the side might be different. You can keep that right leg long. You may or may not need blankets for this side. When you're ready, framing that leg with the hands, heart turning towards that left foot. Keeping the spine nice and long. If you want, you can start to walk the hands a little bit more forward. Here is another time where a strap or a belt or a towel, whatever you've got, can come in handy because you can grab onto that ball of the foot with your whatever you've got strap and keep the spine nice and straight and long. And then as you get a little bit lower, you can either walk the hands closer or start to bend the elbows a little bit more. Wherever you are, the heart is melting towards that left thigh, left knee. Find that edge where you have a nice stretch, not too much, but a nice stretch through the back of the left leg. And then once you find that, you can sink down, round the spine, round the head down. I feel a nice stretch through the back of the leg, but as well through the right side of my low back. Stay with the breath. Breathe into the stretch is something that is said a lot in yoga classes. It basically just means think about the areas that you're stretching, and as you breathe, imagine that breath is going right to those muscles, to those bones, to those joints. I know it's not literally happening, but it helps you to visualize and to be really present with the body and what you're feeling, your sensations. Take one more breath here. And then walk your hands back up. I want to keep this class relatively short, so we're actually going to set up for our final rest. So if you want, you're comfortable in your blankets, you can just sit up and we'll do a seated meditation, crisscross applesauce, or you can keep the legs long, or if you want, you can lay back down, just like we started class. I'm going to stay seated so I can keep track of time. We'll be here about 5 minutes. So go ahead and find whatever position is comfortable for you. Sitting, laying down, add any blankets or other props that you might have. You can add your socks back on or a sweater. Just get to where you can really release, really relax. And we'll take a few more sighing breaths together. Deep breath in. One more deep breath in. Sigh. Let's do one more deep breath in. And then just return to the normal breath, not forcing it. Just slowly start to let the body release, let the body relax. If you're completely new to yoga, we did a lot today. If you feel like you got some workout in, there's no reason to feel bad for that. Yoga is a very different vibe, a different set of motions than what most other activity is. So totally normal. Regardless, you did it, and I'm proud of you. And I hope that you feel just a glimmer, just a little glimmer of what yoga can do for you, for your body, and for your mind. This final rest, we do this at the end of every class. It's just to help let your yoga practice settle into your body. The physical practice that we just did, it's just to let the body kind of assimilate what just happened, really process what just happened, and to release. So the main goal here is to just take a little scan through the body, and if you find any areas that are holding tension, try to let those go. And it's really just time to try to be still in your mind, focusing just on the breath. And remaining in the present moment. If you're a beginner, or even if you're not a beginner, it's very hard to stay present. If you find that your thoughts kind of take you along with them and you run away with your thoughts, it might be a good practice to try and count the breath. So inhale 1, exhale 1, in 2, out 2, up to 10, and then start back over at 1. Or you can just say in to yourself on your inhale and out to yourself on your exhale. In, out, in, out. And the mind will wander. And when it does, Try not to get down on yourself. Don't be judgmental. Just gently bring the mind back to your breath. And it takes practice. It's like a toddler. You have to keep redirecting, redirect, and that's okay. My classes that are not super focused on beginners, I'm very quiet during this part because I want you to work on these tools on your own. But for today, I want to talk you through it so you don't feel alone or discouraged about your Shavasana. Shavasana means corpse pose, or we often use it just as whatever you use at the end of your class to relax and release. Focusing in on that breath. Our breath is always there for us. And even when we're not intentionally changing the breath, making it longer or anything like that, it's still there for us to be present. It's an opportunity for us to be present in the present moment by focusing on the breath. Take one more scan through the body. Noting any last areas that might be holding tension. And breathe into those spots to try to help them release. All together now, let's take a deep breath in. Long, slow breath out. You can start to wake the body up a little bit by wiggling the fingers and the toes, the wrists and the ankles. You can stretch the arms overhead and do whatever feels good for you. If you have the eyes closed, you can open them up. Nice work. I'm very glad that you were here, and I hope you feel a little more at ease, maybe a little more stretchy, maybe a little bit stronger. Whatever you feel, please interact with us on our chat or on social media. I want us to build community together. I don't want you to feel like you're alone, so please feel free to do that. And until next time, at the end of every class, we do this, and you'll see this often in yoga classes. You have the option to bring the hands at heart center. It's not a requirement. And I always say one word, and that word is namaste. And what it means is the love and the light in me sees and honors that same love and light in you. So I will say that at the end of class. If you want, you can repeat it out loud, you can repeat it in your head, or you cannot repeat it at all, but it's something that is pretty common in yoga, and it's something that I truly feel and I want to remind you all of, that I love each and every one of you. So namaste.